Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for watching. The wind is brutal today. I've been waiting for it to die down ever since I got here, and I don't think it's going to. So hopefully you guys can hear me, and we're just gonna try to plow through this. So today we're gonna talk about, that's crazy. Surely you guys can hear that. I mean, it's probably louder than I am. Today we're gonna talk about SHTF. Now, it's been a weird year. There seems to be a lot of hostility building in the country, at least in certain areas of the country, and there's been a lot of people, more than ever supposedly, that have seen the need for firearms that might not have even cared just 8 or 9 months ago. So, by the way, for those of you that don't know, SHTF stands for Shit Hits the Fan. But I don't think we're gonna see like a large-scale SHTF scenario break out in the country, but we're definitely starting to see it in small pockets of the country, and law enforcement is basically just standing down and allowing people to fend for themselves. And that's no fault to the police. Honestly, I don't blame them. In most of these situations, it's just too dangerous for them to go in. So obviously it's smart to game plan for this type of stuff, and one of the most important tools that you would need in an SHTF scenario is a self-defense tool. And in America, the firearm is the best tool for that job. So I brought out a few guns that I think most people would probably consider when looking for an SHTF gun. So we're gonna go over these, talk about them a little bit. Maybe I'll help you decide which one to pick if you are looking for an SHTF gun. By the way, we are up on the big range today because the sun is brutal down on the small one, so I just brought everything up here. But before we get started, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the handgun for a minute. So these are all guns that you guys have seen on previous videos, and I've talked about some of this before, but the handgun I'm going to exclude from this list, mainly because I think everyone should have a handgun, and this is not like a primary self-defense weapon. This is a sidearm that you could put in a holster. You could conceal and carry this while you're, carrying your primary self-defense weapon or doing other stuff. So I think you should have a handgun. Everyone should have a handgun, and for like really close and dirty, it doesn't get any better than a handgun. But for a primary SHTF self-defense weapon, I don't think you should pick a handgun for obvious reasons. Number one, the range is super limited. You can't reach out very far unless you're super skilled. And also the calibers just aren't nearly as effective as something like a rifle or a shotgun. So I'm not gonna shoot this while there's ammo in the gun. I'm almost out of 9mm, but I guess I'll go ahead and empty this magazine. I don't know how many rounds are in here, but I guess we'll see. All right. 5 were in the magazine, and it did not lock to the rear. I've never had that happen in a Glock. We'll chalk it up to ammo. I also brought the SIG P365 XL out here. This is my carry gun, so it's in the holster. This is a great gun. It doesn't hold quite as many rounds as the Glock 17, but again, I wouldn't recommend either of these for a primary SHTF gun, but they're both great handguns. All right, number one on my list that I think most people would probably consider is the shotgun. Now, we've done a lot of videos on shotguns in the past, and you guys know that I love pump action shotguns. So when it comes to SHTF, these are definitely a good choice. You can't get much more effective at close range, like 0 to 20 yards or even 30 yards. But much further than that, the shotgun is gonna lose quite a bit of effectiveness, but they are absolutely devastating for inside of a house or home defense or anything like that. So obviously the benefits to a shotgun, like we've talked about before, are the ammo selection. The variety of ammo that you can get for a shotgun is just endless, and there's a million different options out there for all types of different purposes. Close range, long range, less lethal, just pretty much anything you can think of, a shotgun can do the job. Other than stretching out past a certain distance, they don't do that very well. And for SHTF, I do think that you would want something that stretches out just a little bit further. Capacity is another downside to shotguns. Now, they do have long extended magazine tubes you can get for these things now, but they still are not gonna hold as many rounds as like an AR-15 or something like that. So capacity, recoil, it's also a big downside to shotguns because they do tend to kick like a mule, but that's the price you pay for super powerful ammo. So shotguns are great, definitely not at the top of my list for SHTF, but you could do a lot worse than a shotgun. Well, since we got the shotgun out, let's hit a pineapple. Actually, let's get a little closer to it. Oh yeah. All right, now one more honorable mention that I have to give is the 22 long rifle. Now this is the Ruger 1022, but with every gun on the list, I'm really talking about the caliber, not so much the make and model. So whatever 22 long rifle gun you like, that would work just fine, but it's the caliber that I'm referring to. So the 22, actually during the last ammo shortage that we had a few years ago, the 22 was the one that everyone bought up. This time that doesn't seem to be the case, maybe because everyone already has 100,000 rounds from the last time, I don't know, but 22 is still on the shelves, which is kind of strange. But the 22 for this type of scenario, I don't think is the best choice. Now you can get the job done with a 22 in pretty much any situation. If you brain shot something, you know, it's probably gonna go down, even if it is a 22 long rifle. So that being said, they're obviously not the most powerful rifles, and they definitely have some downsides. Long range with the 22 is another downside as well. They just don't keep energy very far at all because it is such a small, you know, low powered bullet. But again, 22s are great, and a lot of people like them because they have no recoil, they're pretty quiet, and if you suppress them, they're movie quiet. You know, you can't hear these things at all then. But the long range of the 22 is a big downside. Another one is the ammo. So rimfire ammo just tends to be more finicky than centerfire ammo like a 5.56 or a 7.62 by 39. So you're never gonna get the reliability out of one of these that you would an AR-15 or an AK-47, just because the ammo doesn't really lend itself to that kind of reliability. You're gonna get hang-ups here and there with a 22, and everyone knows it and everyone just kind of deals with it. So now a huge upside of the 22s is the cost of ammo. Obviously 22 long rifle is super cheap. Even right now it's still the cheapest caliber you can find. But if crap hits the fan, you're not going to be able to go to the store and find ammo. You're going to have to get ammo in other ways. So I suggest you just stock up now on whatever gun you're planning to, you know, use for this hypothetical SHTF situation we're talking about. 22 is cheap. Most people do have a lot of it, and I definitely understand why people would want a 22 long rifle as their SHTF gun, because you can do a lot with it, and pretty much anybody in the family could use a 22. They have no recoil. So that being said, it's an honorable mention on my list because I definitely think there's better choices. All right, so before we get into the couple that I do recommend, there's one more that I want to touch on, and that is the long range precision rifle. So obviously long range rifles are a tremendous asset in certain situations, and you know, there's a lot of people that love shooting long-range rifles, but for SHTF, I just don't think it would be the best choice. You know, if you're in a situation where you have to defend your life, chances are it's not going to be at 1,000 yards. It's probably going to be 100 yards, 200 yards and in. So the long-range rifle could definitely serve a purpose, and especially, you know, how long this thing goes could play a factor in that as well. If you're hunting, you know, getting your own food, stuff like that, then yeah, a long-range rifle would definitely be a benefit. But as far as defending yourself and your family, a long-range precision rifle would not be my #1 choice. All right, now for the first gun that I would absolutely recommend as a primary SHTF gun, the AK-47. Or the AKM. Every time I make a video, I get corrected in the comments. I know it's not a real AK-47. So you guys knew this would be on the list. I love AKs, and I really love the 30 caliber AK-47. So the AKs just have such a tremendous track record and a proven history in battle over the last 60 or 70 years. There's not too many guns out there that I would trust with my life more than a well-made AK. They work through everything. They're super effective. The 7.62 by 39, as I'm sure all of you guys know, is a really powerful, really effective rifle round, and you just can't go wrong with an AK. There are a couple downsides, like the recoil is a little bit more than something that we'll talk about here in a minute, and it doesn't go quite as far, but you could get out to several hundred yards with an AK if you know what you're doing. So they're a super simple design, really basic, long stroke gas piston, overgassed 9 times out of 10. Every AK I've ever shot has been overgassed, but I believe that probably helps in reliability. So you might notice this one has a different safety selector. Don't worry about that little guy. But yeah, I love the AKs, and like I said, you guys knew that the AK would be on my list. If this is the gun you pick for your primary SHTF self-defense gun, you won't regret it, and you can't go wrong with a well-made AK. They're great guns, and they would serve that purpose well. So let's shoot it. Obviously, I can't shoot the steel torso plate because it's not rated for rifles, but I got a couple other targets down there. All right, so the AK is a great gun. If all you have is an AK-47, then I would say you're definitely well armed to handle just about any situation. But since we live in the United States, I gotta say my number one choice is the AR-15. So this is my BCM AR-15. I'm sure most of you guys expected to see this one, but I just recently painted it and it looks awesome. It almost came out like a Cryptek type of pattern. It's black and gray. But I don't know, it just looks sweet. I did not expect it to come out looking like that. But either way, that's not what we're here to talk about. So this is America's rifle. There are more of these than any other rifle in the country, and there's a good reason for that. They fire the 5.56 or the 223, which is a small, lightweight, but powerful enough to get the job done bullet. Like I said, there's a good reason that these are the most popular rifles in the country. They're super easy to shoot, super modular. You can customize the crap out of these. I just did a video going over top 5 guns everyone should own, and I went over all the same stuff. So if you want to, watch that video, and I go in a little bit more detail there. But the AR-15, especially for SHTF, is a really smart choice. Number one, because everybody has them. So if you link up with a group of people or family or neighbors, and they're gun owners, chances are they will have an AR-15 and they'll have magazines and they'll have ammo, and you guys can form a group and all have the same weapons and the same caliber. Also, if you were to do like a battlefield pickup, chances are 223 or 5.56 would be the caliber that most people are gonna have on them. It's just so common. Everyone has it because everyone has the AR-15. So when you compare the 5.56 to the 7.62 by 39, it's much flatter shooting, so you can get out a few hundred yards further than you can with the 7.62. It's obviously not as powerful, it's not as big and heavy of a bullet, but it will do the job, and there's a reason that a lot of our military does use the 5.56, and it's been killing bad guys for quite a long time. So I would feel comfortable using the 5.56, and I'm really comfortable using the AR-15. I love these guns. Let's shoot a few rounds out of this bad boy. All right. All right, so the AR-15 is absolutely the gun that I would recommend to anyone who's looking to buy their first SHTF gun, but it's probably not the first gun that I would grab, believe it or not. This is the first gun that I would grab. This is the Arsenal AK-74, chambered in 5.45 by 39, and those of you that watch the channel probably saw this coming from a mile away because I talk about this gun all the time. But I love the AR-15. Don't get me wrong, I would not feel like underpowered or less capable with an AR-15. I just like the AK-74 a little bit more, and I've seen ballistics testing and battlefield reports and stuff like that that really talk about how effective these guns are. Now, I'm not saying they're more effective than an AR-15 or are capable of doing more damage or anything like that. I'm sure there's ammo for the 5.56 that would match or maybe even surpass the 5.45 by 39. But the reliability, durability, track record, the battlefield history of the AK platform with the 5.45 by 39 caliber is just perfect for me. Plus, I happen to have quite a bit of 5.45 by 39 ammo. Now, the reason I don't recommend this gun to any of you guys watching who might not have any of these is because you can't find them and you can't find the ammo. It's super hard to find, and when you do find it, it's not going to be as cheap as it should be. And the guns, forget about it. The guns are way overpriced. If you find an AK-74 right now, at least an import, you're going to pay way more than you should. There are some American companies who are trying to change that, but as of right now, these guns are overpriced and I would not recommend them. Hopefully they come back because they're amazing guns, really easy to shoot well, and they're really effective in combat as well. So the AK-74 is not the gun that I would recommend you go out and buy, but if you already have one, then this is definitely the gun that I would go to before all the others. All right, so we're back quite a ways on the rifle range now, not quite 100 yards, probably about 90 yards away, and this is where guns like the AR-15 and the AKs really shine. Plus, if you spray paint them like this, they're even more accurate. So we have an 8-inch gong down there. Let's see if we can hit it. Well, the brass was smacking my truck. That's probably not good. You couldn't do that with a shotgun or a handgun, at least not that easily. Let's try a pineapple at 100 yards. All right, for this one, we got some steel-cased hollow points. It's a tiny target from all the way back here. Let's see. First try. All right, so we got some pineapple juice right there where it was sitting, and then over here is our pineapple, and that looks like the exit hole, and the entrance hole is too small to see, but really not too bad for some cheap old ammo. All right, let's try the AK-74. Now I'm running these 5.45 hollow points, which this gun doesn't really like, but I'm not about to waste my good ammo, so see if we can hit the target. Swinging. I can't hit it. The muzzle brake on this gun is so effective that it drives the gun down. So when it recoils, you almost have to bring it up to get back on target. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is gonna do it for me today. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember, as I always say, this is just my opinion. Don't kill me in the comments, but I would be glad to hear from y'all down below on why you agree or disagree with my opinions on this. As always, if you like the video, guys, please let me know down in the comments and hit that like button for me. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.